All right. If you're born in the United States and received citizenship, uh, and your parents were migrants, or if you've been adopted and been nationalized, like myself, what is taking place right now with Trump and his executive order to basically circumvent what's in the Constitution about birthright citizenship. This should be extremely worrying, but this goes beyond that because it it can be used on anybody, and while everybody, and including channels that I watch I respect for the most part, like Democracy Now!, TYT, and a whole host of others on the progressive side. I have to tell you, their rhetoric, calling it unconstitutional, calling it ridiculous, calling it delusional, and so on and so forth. You're all wrong. Because one thing that's been proven over and over and over again, and none of you seem to understand, is that the party in power, the criminal party in power, along with the pseudo criminals, well, no, not the pseudo criminals, the criminals also, because the party I'm talking about are the Democrats and the Republicans, because the ones, the big D and the big R that are in control are criminals. And I've seen all these sort of things to try to make it seem like the Democrats are in some way and somehow more ethical and more moral, but here's the thing: they're not, because the Republicans are psychopaths and the Democrats are sociopaths. And the ones that are in the Democrats, that are Democrats who aren't sociopaths, have no leverage, have no power, have no influence. And there are some decent Democrats, but they're powerless. Bernie Sanders is powerless. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is powerless. And the thing is that with the criminal element, the organized criminal mafia element that is in power, who's backed by the mainstream propaganda, criminal propaganda machine, who's owned by criminal mafia corporations and criminal mafia wealthy, they are going to push this through. Forget all the rhetoric, them cutting commercial funding and all that other stuff to these criminal organizations in the media. The fact is that this is exactly what took place during the time of the rise of the Nazis. And these are the sort of things which led to what's happening today. The violence and the threats from the ignorant criminals who back fervently. And the thing is, it was a small number, a small fraction, which took control over the vast plurality of Germans. And if you know anything about history, you know that that is exactly what took place. And this whole idea by the progressives and even by the criminal left called mainstream media, dismissing the idea that Trump and the other criminals, both on the Democrats and the Republican side, who can't push through this, you're wrong. You're dead wrong. Because they can and they will. Because it's the only way to hold power for them. And they're at the point where they have gone over to the point of utter insanity. They can't think outside of their insanity. We as a society who are decent keep giving them a pass. We keep tolerating the intolerable. We keep speaking to them, and we don't understand that our own rhetoric, our own tolerance, even our own intolerance of intolerance is so weak. It's so meaningless that these people will continue to do it because they don't have an element of fear, like the fear that the right or the criminals demonstrate in a very visceral form. Now, I'm not advocating for us to get out in the streets and start with guns and start shooting people. No. What I am advocating is sending a strong message. And the strong message can be only done in a form that puts fear into them. And that is to have the plurality stop going to work. Stop buying food. Stop buying anything. Stop paying for any service. Stop paying your taxes. Stop doing everything. Just stop. Because that will send a message that will generate fear and break the cycle of thought. It will send a message that their insanity is no longer tolerable. And that is what we need to do. Otherwise, you can spew whatever you want, but this will continue to happen, and we will all pay for it. All of us. And the right wing, who are insane themselves, cannot understand the backlash that will come for them. And that is unfortunate for them, but it's more unfortunate for us because we can see if we stop being emotional and intellectual children. So, the options are stop everything and show a sign of force that will put the fear into these criminals so that they will listen, they will back down, or let it continue to the point that we have to be out on the streets with our guns. Those are the options.